come here. What if I told you there is this one skill that separates struggling students from fluent speakers? I know what you're thinking. It's not tones, it's no vocabulary, and it's neither grammar. It is mastering these 21 powerful sounds. Let us begin by looking at the categories, the hacks, and addressing the common mistakes. And in this very section, I'll be teaching you the structure of pinyin learning. So the first set that we're going to be dealing with is bo, po, mo, fo. I know I pronounced them a little fast, but that's because we are yet to handle them on a different section. In here, I just want to tell people that you're going to require your lips. All these sounds, as you're pronouncing them, your lips have to come into contact. Except the fo, but still it will require you to use your lower lip and your upper teeth. Now, for the rest of the sounds, like bo, po, I know some of our Vietnam students, as well as Thailand, maybe plus some Spanish-speaking countries, may have trouble pronouncing them. But in this video, I'll be telling people how to differentiate bo and po, because to most speakers, even just listening to them, it sounds almost similar. But the difference between these two is leading us to our second point here. Some are aspirated and others come out a little bit soft. You don't need to gush out too much air from your mouth. We then come to our last point here, which is strength. The way you pronounce them, it could be a strong and firm way, or it could be slight. Bo, po, bo, po. Now, something I want people to first take note of. We always seem to add a little U before the O. So we pronounce the sound with O. Now, you may notice for English, probably every time they're pronouncing these letters, they just take the sound as a single unit, probably B or P. But that's not Chinese, because Chinese is a language of sounds. Even if you do not see any other letters in front or behind these initials, you're supposed to fill in those gaps. Now for the bo and po, we say it with an O, but when we're pronouncing it, it will carry an U sound at the front of the O, so it will be read as wo, wo, wo. Now together it will be bo and po. Now, where does the difference come in between the two? Both require us to close our lips, gush out a little bit of air, and then we can speak out the sound. But with the bo, you do not need to use that much force. You can see from the picture in the video, she's barely closed her lips. While in the second picture with po, he has to close his lips from the inside and then prepare all this loads of air and then gush it out at once. Sometimes in schools we will request students to also hold up a paper and say po, po, try to blow the paper away. If you're still having trouble with these two sounds, you can have a paper just in your arms and try to po, po, say out the sound. See if the paper is moving. What I want to just emphasize is that in the beginning, try to exaggerate the sounds. The more you exaggerate in the beginning, the less you will have to do that as time goes on. And even the listening will improve drastically. So, bo, bo, slight, po, po, strong. And we're going to gush out all this air from our mouth, just as you see the two mouth shapes. The last two in this same bracket, mo and fo, are also going to require us to use our lips. The only difference is mo also tends to fall in the category with bo, po, mo. And then fo, we only use the top part of our teeth, or the top teeth, plus our lower lip, just as I've shown you in the video. So you're going to try to bite your lower lip don't bite it, and then pronounce the sound out. 4, 4, 4. I don't think this is going to be an issue for most learners because the F word is very common all over the world these days. Now, let me put emphasis on more rather. More, more, more. This one, every language I could think of, they also have the mama thing. It's either mama or mère or, I don't know. Lots of different languages seem to use M sound to say mother. So I think this is a sound that you'll find quite interesting. Just try to join your lips and bring out the more sound. Now, for those of you that want to follow along and repeat these sounds to yourself every day, I've put a video link in the description. People can check it out and see. Try to repeat. It's a short that I created on this very subject. Just try to repeat after those sounds every day for at least 7 days. And I promise you, you will see tremendous change. Now, in the same manner, let us also take these 4 as a single unit, as a single family. dtnl. Why? Because in pronouncing them, we're going to use similar techniques. Most of them are going to require us to have a specific position of the tongue in our mouth. Others are going to require us to use vocal muscles, and some will require us to use weak air breaths. Regardless of which one we're pronouncing, it will at least use 1 or 2 of these characteristics. Now, let us go and see how we pronounce them using these techniques.
Okay, now, let's see the t. Here, my friends, the sounds, these 2 consonants that I'm dealing with right now, I have met a couple of students that have trouble pronouncing them in the first place. Now, the reason for that has a lot to do with the position of the tongue, as well as how they're pronounced. These 2 have a similarity, and that would be that the front part of the tongue has to get in touch with the teeth. Now, when I say the front part of the tongue, I do not mean the tip of the tongue. Please take note of that, because in most cases, if I do not clarify that, I'll find students using the tip of the tongue to touch the behind part of their teeth and pronounce a sound that I would call similar, but then it's having a little bit of whistle added to it, and it's too sharp. And when you do that, it is actually going to narrow the line between them, okay? It is actually going to make it harder for you to pronounce them separately, because in that kind of way, when you're using the tip of the tongue just behind the teeth, it will sound almost too similar to differentiate, okay? Now, you will try it on your own. I will not try it in this video for reason of not confusing the listeners. Probably there will be people watching this video that will be wanting to listen out for the difference between the 2 sounds before they can even start imitating. Now, for that very reason, I will not pronounce the wrong way. I will not pronounce the wrong sound, what it shouldn't sound like. Instead, if you want to know, you could do a self-try, okay? Press a mirror or at least record yourself, and then try to use the tip of the tongue just behind the teeth to pronounce the 2 sounds. You'll notice that the difference between them is a little bit ignorable. They'll sound a little bit too similar. But then, when I say the front part of the tongue, I mean the part just after the tip, okay? From the tip, you have the tip of the tongue, probably the part you see first when the tongue is coming out of the mouth. Without you having to use too much energy, every time you push out your tongue out of the mouth, you'll find that it's the part people can see. It is that part of the tongue that you can comfortably put out of your mouth without having to strain it or feeling like you've elongated it too much. There is an exception, of course. Some people can actually put a good proportion of their tongue outside. I'm not speaking about those few individuals. I'm speaking about usually on a normal day-to-day basis. If someone was asked to pull out the tongue just out of the mouth, the part that you would see first, that is not the tip, that is the part. Now place that part. Don't roll up your tongue upwards, don't, okay? Rather, let the tip of the mouth face downwards inside the mouth and let that front part touch the teeth. It will form something like an arc or something like letter N in the mouth. You feel that? Okay. Now, gently, let's do it without having to think too much about the position of the tongue. Oh my God, now I have to place my tongue in this kind of way. Let us just remember that the tongue has to slightly touch the back part of the teeth. Now let's pronounce the first one. The. If you pronounced it well, you'll notice that what produces this sound is when the tongue gets in contact with the back part of the teeth, it will block the air coming out and there will be a little vibration that causes the sound, but it does not require you to use a lot of air or a lot of force to pronounce it. I'll say that again. It does not require you to produce a lot of air from your mouth or with a lot of force to be able to say out the sound, okay? It's simply the little vibration that you do as the tongue blocks the air when it gets in contact with the teeth is already enough to produce the sound naturally. Keep your tongue in the same position. And now try to use more air to produce the second sound. Try to exaggerate it, okay? Try to exaggerate it. Be a little overboard with it. Why? Because every time you do it in an exaggerated way, you'll be able to feel the gush of air coming out, and I guarantee you will hear that the sound is now different. Okay? Now, the second thing we will notice about the t, as much as it has all this amount of air now that we are gushing out of our mouth, it does not use as much vibration as the d. Why? Because with the reason it brings out that feeling of vibration in the throat is because it's making up for all that air that we're not pushing out. There is all this air that is not going to be pushed out. You're saying it so lightly that the vocal muscles have to do a little work. Touch your throat as you pronounce it. If you're an English speaker, you could try saying the word bad. Now put emphasis on the last sound. Good. Now with the second one, you do not need to vibrate too much because you're passing out all that air out of your mouth. Obviously it will vibrate a little, but it's not the main thing about the sound. It does not require vibration to produce the sound. But rather you need to gush out all that air from your mouth. Okay, that now helps us understand the difference between these two sounds.
Now these two are our familiar friends. The exact same way we pronounce them in English is the same way we pronounce them in Chinese. So I believe Spanish has them, I believe French has these sounds, and I believe most of the languages we speak all have these sounds. So I'm just going to help everyone to pronounce them with me. The first one, no, 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 lo, 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 no, lo, no, lo, no, lo. Very good.